In this unusual story, we meet a Japanese man dressed in strikingly hued pajamas. He finds himself in a stark and empty room, void of any doors or windows, with its surfaces completely enveloped in white. The room is characterized by its minimalist design, and it features a ceiling that blends seamlessly into the surroundings, making it hard to distinguish. Upon examining the walls more closely, he comes across a strange outgrowth that bears resemblance to male genitalia. Driven by his curiosity, he gives in to the impulse to press the strange protrusion. This action triggers an extraordinary event. Countless baby angels, emitting continuous giggles, materialize from the walls and floor. These ethereal beings appear only briefly before disappearing as swiftly as they came into view. However, their fleeting presence leaves a lasting and unusual mark. The walls and floor are now covered with similar protrusions, each echoing the one he initially encountered. This marks the beginning of what is known as the learning phase. The man, initially terrified and pleading for help to an unseen audience, soon gives way to curiosity. Experimenting with the various buttons, each press brings a new random object into the room, ranging from mundane items like a toothbrush to larger objects like a vase. Repeated presses of the same button yield multiples of the same item, leading to an accidental collection of chopsticks. However, his exploration is not without mishaps. A press of a nearby button releases a small cart that strikes him in the legs. Another button transforms into a buttocks-like shape, which then emits gas in his face. As time progresses, the room fills with a bizarre assortment of objects. A thrown ball inadvertently hits a button, delivering sushi, which is a welcome sight for the hungry man. However, the absence of soy sauce becomes a minor frustration, leading to a heap of sushi but no sauce. His irritation peaks when soy sauce finally appears after he has finished eating. During his quest, he stumbles upon an old-fashioned pair of 3D glasses. Putting them on, he observes a surprising sight: a baby angel gesturing towards its own genitalia. Believing this to be a significant hint, he eagerly presses the corresponding button. Unexpectedly, this results in a countdown and the bizarre appearance of an enormous buttocks, which releases gas in his direction. Several hours later, while he's engrossed in reading manga in the peculiar room, he encounters a frustrating situation where the sequence of buttons confuses him. His discovery of a button that unveils a concealed door initially excites him. However, in the midst of his exhilaration, he forgets which button was the key to revealing this hidden exit. The man's initial elation at discovering a potential way out is quickly dampened by his inability to recall the exact button that would open the door. His haphazard trials in pressing various buttons yield some unforeseen and peculiar outcomes: a tribesman sprinting through the room and a sudden deluge of water soaking him from above. Undeterred, he continues his efforts and at last manages to reopen the door, but his triumph is fleeting as the door swiftly shuts again. Through these attempts, he comes to understand a crucial mechanism. The door will stay open only if the protruding object remains depressed. Determined, the man experiments with various methods to keep the button engaged, pressing it with his foot in a sprinter's stance, using a fly swatter from a distance, and even employing a jumping rope and a fan to keep it down. None of these techniques succeed. Frustration mounts as he fails to control a cart he uses in an attempt to race to the door. His next strategy is to weigh down the button with a large vase. When this proves ineffective, he desperately tries to fill the vase with water, only to find that the water refuses to cooperate, soaking him instead. Resorting to sushi, he fills the vase, but it becomes too heavy to move. In a painstaking effort, he removes sushi piece by piece with chopsticks. When he's finally able to move the vase, another misfortune strikes. The vase breaks. In a fit of rage, he covers the button with sushi, but the protuberance stubbornly rises again. He tries covering it with tape and a steel plate, but to no avail. After a rest and tending to his pains, the man's next attempt to escape involves a rope that descends from the ceiling. Excited by this new possibility, he uses the rope to swing across the room, trying to open the door behind the false wall, but he discovers that it's locked. Despite managing to return to the main room, the door still catches him. In a moment of frustration, he kicks the wall, accidentally revealing a floating key. He quickly realizes he must keep both the key in place and the door open. After a few attempts, he marks the correct button with a piece of sushi, but the process is complicated by the re-emergence of the dog and his need to repeat the swinging and jumping maneuver multiple times for each part of the combination lock. Finally, he reaches the lock, only to find another hurdle, a second lock requiring a 3-digit combination. In a fit of anger, he throws the plunger at the wall, inadvertently releasing the tribesman again. This time, he notices a crucial detail: numbers on the tribesman's forehead. These numbers, he realizes, are the combination he needs. Through repeated efforts, he enters the numbers into the lock, but as he opens the door, he finds himself trapped between the closing wall and the partially opened door. Overwhelmed with despair, he recalls the moments of joy he found in the objects provided by the buttons. In this moment of reflection, he feels a breeze from a false wall. Pushing through it, he finds himself in a mysterious dark hallway. Navigating the hallway seems to last forever. Eventually, he arrives in a different room, noticeably altered in appearance with longer hair and faded pajamas. This new room, empty like the first, differs in its inhabitants. Instead of baby angels, there are adult ones. In this space, the protrusions also function as buttons, just as before. This stage of his peculiar journey is referred to as practice. Meanwhile, in Mexico, the story shifts to a young boy named Antonio and his family. His father, a wrestler known as Escargot Man, is unusually quiet, perhaps due to an upcoming match against a much younger opponent. Escargot Man's daughter, Sister Karen, transports him to the wrestling ring.
Ándale, ya va a empezar.
At school, Antonio faces ridicule for his faith in his father's strength. As the wrestling match begins, Escargot Man and his partner, Silver Eagle, face off against the Northern Tough Ones. The match is intense, with Escargot Man initially refusing to join but eventually succumbing to the pressure. Just when defeat seems imminent, a miraculous extension of Escargot Man's neck, triggered by the man in the mysterious room, turns the tide. Back in the room, the man's attempts to replicate this miraculous intervention lead to unintended consequences across the globe. A metal singer in Los Angeles breathes fire, a Russian magician's trick fails, and a man in China barks at his dogs. The man then notices something different about this room: the absence of a ceiling and the presence of angels flying above. Inspired, he decides to climb the walls using the protruding buttons, causing a cascade of extraordinary events on Earth. Each step he takes influences everything from nature to human achievements. As he ascends, the man's physical appearance transforms, and he gains the ability to float like the angels. He now consciously chooses which buttons to press, influencing significant events in human history. Surrounded by feathers, he enters a glowing portal, leading him to the final room. This room is different, adorned with representations of the continents and dominated by a massive button. The man stands poised to press it, entering the phase known as future. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more updates and exciting content. See you in the next video.